Hello everybody. Today we're learning about fascism. Yes, this is actually a suggested video. Today we're learning about fascism. Yes, today we're reacting to Monsieur Z Understanding Fascism. And if you don't know what fascism is, I made notes. Yes, I'm learning and trying to learn it before reacting, because I don't do that. I just straight up react to the video and that's it. Here, fascism is a system of government led by a dictator who typically rules by forcefully and often violently suppressing opposition and criticism, controlling all industry and commerce, and promoting nationalism and often racism. In short, a man that has complete control of the entire country. Examples of fascism: Italy's National Fascist Party led by Benito Mussolini, Adolf Hitler's National Socialist German Workers' Party, or the Nazi Party. That's the examples and that's my notes. I know it's that short, but I was too lazy to write more and I don't want to make our intro that long. So like and subscribe. Thank you for all of your support. And let's get right to the video. Hello everybody. Okay, first of all, let me warn you guys. If I cough, that's because my throat is kind of sore. Because I ate some candies. I got toothache earlier and I'm here just trying to make a video for you guys. And yeah, I know sometimes I'm gonna cough in the video. I'm very sorry. But hey, I'm gonna try to talk and don't cough because it might ruin the video. So I'm gonna start the recording by, hold on, why the hell does it, there we go, jeez. Oh my god, what is happening to my mouse? Okay, it's recording, right? Yeah, it's recording. So today we're reacting to Monsieur Z. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Correct me, please. So I hadn't reacted to this guy. Like, this is my first time. And I actually saw a video. I don't know if he made that one, but it's actually about an alternate history if the Philippines became an empire. If you want me to react to that, comment down below. So yeah, we're reacting to Understanding Fascism. And earlier, I told you guys what's the definition of fascism is, or fascist. Yeah. First of all, I'm not a fascist. Okay? I'm not. Hold on. I'm gonna check. Oh, God. I'm sorry about that. Let's go.
Fascism was an ideology which came into form in the early 20th century, and is one often defined broadly, leading to a lot of confusion over what actually classifies fascism and what doesn't. Originating in Italy and brought to power in that state by Benito Mussolini, it was soon followed by similar movements in Spain, Portugal, Germany, Austria, with less successful efforts as far as Britain, the US, and Russia, and while it varied widely from party to party and from state to state, what remained consistent across the fascist spectrum was an embracing of extreme nationalist tendencies with a rejection of both capitalism and communism as means to financial prosperity. Commonly instead was adopted a financial practice of corporatism, which entailed the establishment of guilds, syndicates, or bodies of specialized labor and function based on common interest and duty to the collective, much like parts of a body, hence the name originating from the Latin word for body, corpus, a theme we find highly prevalent throughout the structure and mythos of fascist ideology. It is for this in part that some have referred to fascism as extremist democracy, though primarily because the ideology has tended to place a tremendous emphasis on a land's native or ancestral majority, whether it be 91% or 51%. In any case, through fascism, said majority is made the sole focus of policy by a singular state party, of course at expense to the remnant minority, whoever they may be. Fascism has also gone hand in hand with the philosophy of irredentism, the reuniting of a people's ancestral or lost land into a singular state, and it's often for this that fascism has mistakenly been called imperialistic, as imperialism at its roots suggests the rule of multiple groups of people under one state, oftentimes oppressive though on occasion democratically inclusive, whereas
Imperialism. Okay, yeah. Fascism is actually sometimes being called imperialists um, because this ideology is sometimes wanted to bring back the old lands of the country that you're leading on. Like like Benito Mussolini's when he was the leader of Italy. I'm sorry for my voice. He wanted to bring back the Roman Empire. So yeah, that's his ideology and that's his belief. That's the reason why it's fascism. And there's Adolf Hitler's. That's a fascist party, the Nazi, and his belief was to bring back the lands of the Germans, like the Holy Roman Empire, for example. And another reason why Hitler became Hitler because of their loss towards World War One and because of his hate towards the Jews and the communists. So if you want to learn more about Hitler, I made a reaction series by using oversimplified's video Hitler. If you want to see that, it's in the description down below of the first episode and the second.
Oftentimes oppressive, though on occasion democratically inclusive, whereas fascism's sole interest is on that of a single ethnic, religious, or racial group, with disregard or disinterest to all others. Further is the common embracing and desire for autarky or self-sufficiency as seen from its practitioners across the board, meaning fascist states typically don't seek colonial expansion unless said lands hold some ancestral merit. For instance, it was rumored Francisco Franco had hoped to reunite Spain with the whole of Spanish-speaking America into one big Spanish nation, while Oswald Mosley proposed promoting his brand of fascism for all the peoples of Britain's colonies, yet maintaining the Commonwealth as a large alliance of sovereign fascist states, and establishing a Greater Britain through union with the dominions of Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa. At root, it's an ideology of us first in our own lands, even if those lands are currently occupied by another people. As an example, imagine a fascist movement for Native Americans, not for any particular tribe, but for the indigenous people as a whole. Such a movement would aim to drive out European Americans from the Americas by any means necessary, as by the standard of fascism there's no obligation to another people than your own. This hypothetical movement would, once it's driven out Euro-Americans, establish a vast state which encompasses the whole of its perceived ancestral lands, perhaps moving beyond to claim lands belonging to the Inuit or Central Americans, soon reorganizing society and economics into an internally focused, self-sufficient unit. This would include the elimination of undesirables and those who fail to conform to the idea of what is the national identity and way of behavior. As with nature and nurture being the key templates for who an individual is to become, fascism seeks to impose a strong and cohesive national identity upon its now homogeneous group, doing so through what at times borders on propaganda, though in most cases is not dissimilar from what is done in even democratic nations where national pride and tradition are central tenets in educating the youth. Conformity and fascism of course feeds into the corporatist aspect of the ideology, as individuals both born and raised similarly are more likely to behave similarly and share interests, thus making the nation a better unified collective unit in near perfect synchronicity with itself, as everybody would basically want the same things and behave in the same ways.
Yeah, like Hitler. He wanted to unify all German ethnic groups around the world. Like he wanted to rule the whole world. And in oversimplified video, he's like the only ethnic group that has to exist are only Aryan Germans, Aryans, because he thought they're like the higher ups, and the worst ones in like the hierarchy that Adolf Hitler believed on are Jews. And another ideology that Hitler hates is communists. So he wanted only German, only Aryan, and no communists, no others, no other religion. And yeah, that's it. That's the reason why he became like a maniac who killed a lot of Jews in concentration camps. Like, that's pretty bad.
And here is a point in which fascism heavily criticizes the ideals of democracy and liberalism, posing that democracy be like a body constantly pulling itself in different directions, hindering itself from actual progress for the sake of maintaining unsustainable fairness, which will always leave some unhappy. Worse yet, if a 51% majority dictates rule for a 49% minority, assuring that in such a democracy as that, the government would almost certainly be considered oppressive. Now, on liberalism, fascism perceives it as a divisive philosophy which promotes selfishness and lack of discipline, believing it to be a destructive slope into the destruction of national unity, identity, and civility. Thus, it is often the case in fascist societies that liberties and rights be curtailed in the name of chiseling out this ideal national character. Despite this, it has been argued that given how well tailored fascist societies are to their respective practicing people, the need for, quote, wiggle room of excess liberties is unnecessary. And of course exceptions exist, such as variants of American fascism where liberty is recognized as intertwined with tradition, typically compromising to specify the limits of liberties or what may not be protected by law.
The world is entering into an economic recession. Market volatility is at an all-time high, and that
by law. Now for this, fascism shares an attribute to the early communism of the Soviet Union, that being a harsh and regimented discipline to ideological doctrine, at penalty of imprisonment and perhaps worse, all in the aim of producing a more efficient and unified society. And so often is the case that fascism be regarded totalitarian, and accurately so. This is a system which seeks to tailor its government and its lands to its dominant population, and will do so at expense to those who stand in the way and institutions which run counter to these goals. Ironically, a fine example of such is demonstrated by the Russification which occurred in Soviet Russia as part of their attempts to equalize the Union. Despite these totalitarian tendencies, however, fascism does not always seek to meet its goals through dictatorial means, but through slow and consistent reform at the democratic level, until a supermajority is established which can carry forward the collective's interests. Now, in economics is where the ideology holds the least consensus. As stated before, corporatism of some variety has been upheld as an ideal in some form or another by notable fascists Oswald Mosley, Owen O'Duffy, William Dudley Pelley, and Benito Mussolini himself. Mussolini, however, has left a rather poor example of dedication to this economic system, and is commonly criticized for having, quote, defaulted to his socialist roots by attempting to nationalize 75% of the nation's industries, which, quote, gave Italy a public sector second only to Stalin's Russia. A lack of national resources, poor planning, and only fledgling industry capabilities led fascist economics to be impractical for Italy and the scale of Mussolini's ambitions, which themselves strained to find consistent progress, ensuring the state would not endure the tribulations of the Second Great War. Francoist Spain too had seen similar problems arise as it had cut itself off from trade in the pursuit of self-sufficiency immediately as the civil war within that state concluded, leaving it with hardly the industry, resources, or labor necessary to pull itself together. Pair this with poor strategy and a lack of allies, and the result was that fascist Spain, like Italy, remained an underwhelming power for the bulk of its existence. National Socialist Germany, which is commonly lumped into the category of fascism but at times regarded as a separate entity, had instead embraced an economic policy of productive capitalism based upon the real product of individual labor, a system which proved to be highly effective for the self-sufficient model, although coming at a significant level of effort as foreign trade had been drastically reduced to encourage the Germans to best utilize that which they already had or could acquire through captured lands. This video had started off for me as an intro to my alternate history scenario, what if the US became fascist, but as I wrote I thought to myself how much of a misunderstanding there was around the ideology, and what exactly it meant versus how it's come to be used as an almost coverall derogatory label in the present day. It's often taken for granted that such ideologies in this extreme form actually exist and attract followers for a reason, and it's equally surprising than the level of lip service paid to dismissing these ideals as cartoonishly evil and preying on misunderstanding, when in truth there's much we could learn from studying this unique ideology, and in particular to those strongly opposed to fascism, it would of course be beneficial to understand what leads individuals to follow it, and how these needs or desires can be satisfied in a less radical fashion. In that, it's almost like a part of this dark side of the force of politics, if I can make a Star Wars reference. We recognize that we're allowed to denounce it as evil, but study of it and recognition of its potential merits is highly frowned upon and discouraged, making it this forbidden knowledge which ultimately tempts and radicalizes individuals who otherwise could have utilized this knowledge to better understand governmental policy and world history as a whole.
Yeah, like they forbid you learning about fascists because what if it changes you? What if you learn more about fascism, and what if you wanted to become like a dictator that has an fascist ideology? Like you're just learning about it. Like you just want to learn what the ideology means. Like me, I don't know much about fascists. That's the reason why I made this video, because I wanted to learn about fascism. And there's not much information about fascism, but I saw some in Google. I saw a lot, but in books, I don't have books about fascists. Like my grandma has books about different types of democracies, but the books doesn't have like about fascists. So I'm still out of edge, and I don't know much about fascists. So that's the reason why I'm here reacting and wanting to learn about it.
Just as an example, the state perceived as a body does tremendous things for recognizing that the various functions and interactions of the state are like that of a superorganism, one with organs of government and industry, in which the very citizens are its literal lifeblood, with the government at the top serving as the organism's brain, and like an organism, though at times it can feel hesitation, action and decision with consensus is necessary for progress to be achieved. If a people lose their cohesion through one way or another, they fracture and cease to be a people, and the historic result, when not as simple as mere separation or collapse, has consistently led to conquest. As Lincoln put it, a house divided against itself cannot stand. I believe this government cannot endure permanently half slave and half free. I do not expect the Union to be dissolved, I do not expect the house to fall, but I do expect it will cease to be divided. It will become all one thing or all the other. And that is where I'll end this video for now. The US of Z thanks you for watching. You can pick up a copy of our novel I Am Uncle Sam from my...
Okay, so that's fascism. I don't know much about fascism, that's for sure, and I didn't even understand him a little because of I don't know what, but the volume is very, very low. Like it's very, very low. So I'm going to search about fascism. Fascism. Like here, this is the meaning that I earlier said in the the intro, and there's amazing articles about fascism and politics, like fascist key people: Benito Mussolini, Giovanni Gentile, Engelbert Dollfuss, Oswald Mosley, and Vincent Quisling. Fascism, a political ideology and mass movement that dominated many parts of Central, Southern, and Eastern Europe between 1919 and 1945. Yes, it was actually crazy in this time, because there's a lot of, because of, this is actually post World War I and the middle of World War II. So yeah, and that also had adherents in Western Europe, the United States, South Africa, Japan. Japan's fascism is actually being led by Hideki Tojo, and I always say his name in this channel because we're learning about the Pacific War. His fascism isn't really a party. He rose in the ranks in the military, and he was actually promoted to be Prime Minister of Japan, and that became like a huge they became like a huge imperialist country, and invaded whole Asia, but ended up them losing a lot of men, or because of, what do you call that, the samurai spirit. And if you don't know about the samurai spirit, I'm gonna try to make a video about it. Okay, here, Japan, Latin America, and the Middle East. Europe's first fascist leader, Benito Mussolini, took the name of his party from the Latin word fascis, which referred to a bundle of elm of birch rods, usually containing an axe, used as a symbol of penal authority in ancient Rome. So, although fascist parties and movements different signify from one another, they had many characteristics in common, including extreme militaristic nationalism, contempt for electoral democracy, and political and cultural liberalism. So yeah, like the guy in the video, Monsieur Z, said, it's like they're trying to unify every cultural entity in Europe in that time. Not in Europe, there's in the Middle East, in Latin America, and yeah, like fascists like liberate culture, like cultural liberalism. Sorry, because I still have sore throat. So yeah, like a belief in natural social hierarchy and the rule of elites. So yeah, that's fascism, and I added some understandings in fascism. So yeah, thank you for watching everybody. Like and subscribe. This is a 20-minute video. Wow. Okay, so thank you everybody for watching. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.